How's it going, everybody? This is Dominic Minchella. I am the Kansas City Chiefs co-beat writer for On SI and the host of the Kansas City Chiefs Insider Podcast, recapping a huge Kansas City Chiefs victory over the Detroit Lions on Sunday Night Football Week 6. Now, I know if there is a lot of listeners returning back from my predictions podcast, I am fully comfortable and confident and feel fine saying that the Kansas City Chiefs were the better team tonight. I predicted the Detroit Lions, who are riding a very, very impressive 4-game win streak, to come into Arrowhead going up against the Kansas City Chiefs that had a little bit of a momentum stopper from week 5 in their loss to the Jacksonville Jaguars. But obviously that was just another thing motivating the Kansas City Chiefs to take down a very big team in the Detroit Lions. And all in all, it was a close game to where it needed to be. And then once Kansas City finally got that breakage, there was a big play that just kind of seemed like, the Chiefs they've got control over this game. Can we just give a quick shout out to defensive coordinator Steve Spagnuolo and the defense? Man, it was a defensive clinic tonight. I thought they played very, very well. In fact, once again, Jamari Conner, total 14 tackles, 10 of them solos. Brian Cook was also very, very good. There was a lot of quarterback hits, including one from Nick Bolton, from Charles Omenihu, Mike Dana, Chris Jones. There was a whole lot of pressure being added to the Kansas City, or from the Kansas City Chiefs to the Detroit Lions, something that they needed to do, especially because going into this game, the Detroit Lions were known as a team who were the biggest offensive threat thus far into the season. They were coming off very explosive games, and what could have been a Super Bowl game, or at least maybe a preview if these two teams keep playing it the way that they did. I think it was crucial, though, that Kansas City did get this win. All in all, it was a team win. Some statistic breakdowns. Isaiah Pacheco led the game with 51 total carries for the Kansas City Chiefs. And when I was going into this game, I was under the full impression that the Chiefs, their run defense had to be very strong if they were wanting to hold the Detroit Lions back. An area that has been a weakness for them thus far turned into one of their biggest strengths, holding top running backs for the Detroit Lions, Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. 65 rushing yards for Gibbs, 24 rushing yards for Montgomery, 0 touchdowns allowed for the rushing crew. There was and shout out Jared Goff. He played very, very well. Didn't throw an interception. And congratulations to quarterback Patrick Mahomes. He now can say that he has beaten Jared Goff in the regular season. He came into this game 0-2, but Patrick Mahomes himself, he really led this team to victory. Offensively, I think that he was up to the challenge, a challenge that needed to be successful. I think that the Kansas City Chiefs, especially Patrick Mahomes, this was a game that if you lost, there's a lot of momentum and personal confidence that would have gotten taken away. Now, I do know that they're going up against the Las Vegas Raiders next week, and the Raiders and the Lions are two completely different football teams, but this is a really, really big win for Kansas City and their wide receiving crew, because this marked the final game that the Chiefs were playing without wide receiver Rashee Rice. Going to be a very great asset to the Chiefs wide receiving room. And I think that if they played as well as they did against a contender or someone that they see who is a juggernaut in the other conference, as well as we've seen very strong competitiveness from other top contenders throughout the NFL, in the Philadelphia Eagles and the Baltimore Ravens, the Kansas City Chiefs have been playing some pretty good football. I am just happy that they were able to do all of this without Rashee Rice. And now you get Rashee Rice, who has arguably been the Kansas City Chiefs' best wide receiver when he is healthy and allowed to play. I think that it was a very successful game, one that Chiefs Kingdom should feel good about. Now going into the receiving side of the ball, Travis Kelce had a very, very good game. 6 receptions and 7 targets, led the Chiefs with 78 receiving yards. Juju Smith-Schuster with 3 receptions, 57 receiving yards. Hollywood Brown had 2 touchdowns out of his 4 receptions. He had 4 receptions, 4 targets, 45 receiving yards, 2 touchdowns. I'm telling you, folks, Hollywood Brown, he is really making himself a guy to know, and a guy that the Chiefs Kingdom should be very happy is returning. I feel like you can kind of tell by the excitement in my voice. I'm very blessed to be covering a very successful team in the Kansas City Chiefs, or at least prior to and continuing. And it's fun to see them win these games that going in, some people like myself, just based off of the ups and downs thus far that they've had this season, is a very impressive thing to witness. It kind of reminds you it shouldn't be a doubt fest surrounding the Kansas City Chiefs because they started 0-2. Now, there's still work to do. I'm not saying that they should be content. It is 3-3, 3 wins, 3 losses. You have a prime chance to get into and above the loss column for the first time this season, going up 4-3 wins to loss, going into the latter half of the first half of the season. You end off against Buffalo. You got Washington Commanders right on deck. I think that this was a very good, confident building team, because the Lions got knocked out by the Washington Commanders, and the Commanders have been playing some pretty good football. And as we know, there's obviously a very strong and long history between the Buffalo Bills and the Kansas City Chiefs. All in all, though, I will own up to it. I was wrong with my prediction. I did predict that it would be a high-scoring game around like the 30-point area, but the Chiefs defense, who had a very struggling performance against the Jacksonville Jaguars, they showed up against a very, very good offensive team in Detroit. I would love to know your thoughts. Though, Chiefs Kingdom, as always, make sure you follow me over on X at Dom Minchella. I post and repost every single day. You're not going to want to miss any coverage of or recaps that we've had thus far of the Kansas City Chiefs leading into the regular season as well. Be sure you follow us over at KC Chiefs on SI. Also, everything gets posted there, all exclusive free content for you. And as always, folks, be sure you tune in tomorrow. I will give you the starting offensive line overall grades, a topic that needs to be discussed, and we'll get into that tomorrow. As always, be kind to one another. I'll see you.